responsible business. And I'm pleased to share that we are back with our annual sustainability conference, which is being organized from November 2nd to November 4th this year. And the conference is planned in a hybrid mode. Now, the topic for this year is prioritizing nature and people in businesses to create measurable impacts. And our conversation today is in a lead up to the conference. It delves into a fairly critical segment of the economy, the micro, small, and medium enterprises, and an extremely burning issue: how do we achieve net zero? Now, the conference, the SME Climate Hub, has partnered with CRB to organize a rather pertinent discussion on the role of SMEs in India's targets on net zero. The session is planned on November 3rd from 11:45 a.m. to 1:15 p.m. And joining me in the conversation today is Ms. Pamela Hawin, Director, SME Climate Hub. Just a little introduction for Pamela. Pamela, as director of the SME Climate Hub, works with international partners, multinational companies, and governments to accelerate a global movement and develop a one stop shop platform mobilizing SMEs to take climate action on net zero. She previously served as head of City Business Climate Alliances at C40, where she was responsible for expanding C40's service offering to member cities relating to the acceleration of climate solutions with both local and global businesses. So, Pamela, thank you so much for joining us today and welcome. And I just thought if you can, for the benefit of the audiences, share a little bit about the SME Climate Hub, the history, who are the people behind it, what the objectives are, and what it means. Over to you, Pamela.
Thank you so much, Devyani, for having me here, and certainly looking forward to the event in November. So yes, the SME Climate Hub was launched a little over 2 years ago to address a very specific issue, which is SME climate action. So to take a bit of a step back, as many of you will know, SMEs, so small and medium-sized enterprises, which for us are businesses with fewer than 500 employees. So these businesses play a crucial role as part of the global economy. They make up 90% of businesses worldwide. They support local communities, and they're also a key part of global supply chain. So it's really, really important to make sure that they're not left behind in the transition to net zero. And we also know that they're very vulnerable when it comes to climate change, but also other disasters. So obviously they were very heavily impacted by the pandemic. They're now starting to rebound financially, but they're having to face a perfect storm. So soaring inflation, rising energy costs, supply chain disruption. And sometimes these impacts of climate change and economic issues are seen in isolation, but the truth is that they can be tackled, they can be addressed at the same time. However, SME small businesses often have a number of barriers to face when it comes to climate action. So we know that they have limited resources, in-house expertise, limited bandwidth to add another project to the list, even when this would benefit their business. So that's the reason why we created the hub, really. So the hub supports SMEs in taking action, starting their journey to net zero emissions. It's a joint effort of different organizations, the Women Business Coalition, the Exponential Roadmap Initiative, Normative, our software partner, and we also work very closely with the United Nations Race to Zero campaign. And altogether, we provide SMEs with, as you said, a one-stop shop, so a single platform that helps SMEs make a commitment that is aligned with science, but also we provide free tools and resources to help them measure their emissions, educate themselves on climate action, report their progress to their key stakeholders. And we also work with a very broad ecosystem of partners to create incentives that will really encourage SMEs to take action on climate.
Thank you, Pamela. I think that was very, very concise and comprehensive and exciting. I think a couple of things that I really liked: the relationship between climate change and economic issues, right? That we really can't decouple. And this whole, ecosystem of helping SMEs measure, because I think that's a common thing we hear, that they don't know where to start. And if you go from measurement and all the way to incentive, so I think that's a fairly holistic view, because we do face the challenge that we encourage positive action, but we do not have enough incentives in place, to ensure that the action continues or derives benefits for the SME. So I think very excited to see the hub and how it works for India. So just building a little bit more, because you've taken the hub to some other countries, right? And if you can elaborate a bit on how it's been with other countries and some experience.
Yeah, very, very happy to do that. Thanks, Devyani. So first of all, important to say that the hub is truly a global initiative. So we have over 5,000 SMEs that have made the commitment that's on the hub. That's the key entry point for small businesses to join the Race to Zero. So this very large campaign managed by the United Nations. And these SMEs come from over 100 countries. But we're also starting to take more of a local approach, because we know that smaller businesses are very much rooted, again, into their local communities. So we've done this, for example, in the UK. Just before COP26, we joined forces with the UK government to run a local campaign that engaged different types of stakeholders in the country, from UK headquartered corporates to local authorities, business associations, and this was very successful. As a result, we managed to really engage the small business community in the UK. We managed to garner over 3,000 signups from small businesses before COP26. And so since then, we've been trying to replicate this approach in other key geographies. Just a few weeks ago, we launched a campaign in the US during Climate Week. And there again, the idea was to engage local stakeholders, US headquartered companies, but also city administrations, local business associations, to work through them to really promote the tools and the resources that we have on the hub, but also to explain the business case behind climate action for SMEs. And going forward, we'll keep doing this in other regions. We have a Spanish version of the hub that we launched with support from the Spanish government, that we will now be using to run pilots in Latin America, again working through corporates to engage their value chains and supply chains. So we're really looking forward to increasing the number of signups on the hub and engage as many small businesses as possible. And we're really seeing some very interesting examples in our community now. So I mentioned the US just a few seconds ago. So there are a few SMEs in our community that are based in the US that are doing amazing things. And they come from different sectors. So we have, for example, Numi Tea, which is a tea company based in California that's really transforming its business, looking at all the different points of their production process that can be made more sustainable, from how they source raw materials, how they use packaging, the water that they use for steeping, all the way to how they transport products to their stores and consumers. But we also have businesses from other sectors, the hospitality one, for example, which is quite interesting because, for example, hospitality companies that have properties in the US are seeing firsthand, how extreme weather events are impacting their operations. And so they're taking action as a result. It's also a matter of business resilience and business survival. So a company like Legacy Vacation Resorts in the US, who's part of our community, is now transitioning to solar energy, looking at LED retrofits, how they can reduce their water usage as well. And they're seeing benefits, business benefits. So this is, drawing clients to their properties. This is strengthening their business partnerships as well. And maybe one last example that I can mention here is a UK-based hair salon that's called Anvec. And the reason why I find this example so interesting is because they've been working on transforming their business since 2013. And the interesting thing is that they've not only reduced their energy bills by 50% as a result of the different actions that they've taken, but they've also increased sales by 10%. So this is really one thing to take away. Taking climate action is also good for businesses.
No, thanks, Pamela. I think this is wonderful because the business case is what all of us have been grappling with, right? And you have evidence. And what I'm also hearing, right, that yes, SMEs respond to external pressures when they're part of supply chains, but I think you will also agree that a lot of it also now seems to be own initiative, right? That they're recognizing, and it is not just flowing from the top towards SMEs, that SMEs are now open and willing and more aware. And that hand holding support will really accelerate action. If they have the right support, the right incentives, then they really have an opportunity to transform how they've been doing this business. And I think it's exciting to know that there are so many SMEs across countries, because perhaps not now, but cross regional learning, right? And it's always interesting to learn from your own regions, learn from your own countries, understand what's happening. And I think that's a really gold mine of information and experience that the hub could put together. So that is great. And just Pamela, for the benefit of people listening in, what can we expect for India? Because I know the climate hub is exploring India. CRB is working with the SME Climate Hub, because we see this as a very, very promising opportunity for SMEs. So just wanted to hear from you as well.
Of course. So we already have a number of Indian signatories as part of our community, but we want this number to grow really fast. And we're fully aware of the impact potential in the region. So, in India, the small business community, I think it's the second largest small business community in the world after China. So it accounts for like a third of India's GDP, 40% of the country's exports. So this is fantastic. There's so much that we could do with Indian SMEs, right? So we'll be working with partners such as CRB to engage this local community and also make sure that they can really reap the benefits of taking action through the hub. And by joining our community, as you said yourself, Indian SMEs will have the opportunity to join an international movement with all that it means in terms of recognition, peer-to-peer learning as well. But it's also going to be a fantastic way for them to, take action in a simplified way. We're trying to streamline the net zero journey for small businesses with all the tools and resources that we offer. And this will be a way for Indian SMEs to, navigate the shifting expectations of, their stakeholders, from investors who are now looking for companies that have climate action plans to make sure that, they can survive in the coming years and thrive as well, all the way to buyers who are looking to work with more sustainable suppliers to achieve their own climate action targets, or consumers who are now naturally drawn to businesses that are taking a greener approach. And finally, obviously, as we've been saying all along, Indian SMEs joining the hub will have the opportunity really to work on their costs, improving business efficiency to make sure that their companies become more resilient. So we're really looking forward to working with you and our other partners in India to grow our community and make sure that we can support small businesses as best as possible.
Thank you, Pamela, for that. And I'm happy to speak on behalf of CRB that we are very excited with this partnership, because we're really convinced about the value that this would bring to the SMEs, right? And the story and the narrative that they can really put together. And we will continue to work. And I think we would like to invite everyone to join us at the session, come and listen more about the SME Climate Hub. We have other experts and speakers, sharing their thoughts that if we really want to accelerate action on net zero, then how do we really scale up what's happening? How do we take that next big step? And hopefully, by next year, this time, I think, Pamela, we would have a lot of experience. And SMEs actually, while we sit back, who come and share their experience and, their benefits and stories, to really leapfrog this she'll be Okay, I am back. I apologize. Technology is having fun with us today. But I just wanted to reiterate that, we're very, very excited to take this partnership forward and totally looking forward that next year, this time, we have a large community uh, with us, So we are standing behind them and they're leading the way. And we invite people again to join us at the conference, listen into what the hub has to say, what the hub has to offer, what the experts say about scaling up action, by SMEs. And the session is on 3rd November from 11:45. And apart from the session, CRB will continue to work with the SME Climate Hub and look at the way forward. So, Pamela, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you at the conference again.
Same here. Thank you so much for having me, Devyani. Looking forward to the conference.
Same here. Take care then. Bye bye. Stop.